June 4, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It looked like it was kind of big, in a big range. There was a lot of little swings and a lot of little noise. Well, a lot of little noisy legs. It was the JOLTS Job Openings report that came out at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard, which is right around here. We see this big spike up. Other than that, there was no other news that came out. I had to leave my desk at around 11 o'clock, so after this point, this chart review was after the market closed. I found a few setups, but I found a lot more almost trades. In other words, trade setups that I thought were close, but they weren't good enough for me to feel confident that they were a good setup. I did take one trade today, and it was a winner. And then, yeah, it was kind of noisy and choppy. Volume was pretty good volume, and there were a lot of these swings had things that almost looked like they would have set up to be a good trade. I did have trouble finding a reliable trading range because, as you can see here, I had this as a potential resistance, but I had trouble finding where the support was. And as price action moved along, I thought, okay, maybe there's support here. And I also saw maybe there's a resistance here. And then again, later I found this as a possible support. Small little trading range here, small little trading range here, another one here, another one here. But as you can see, even with the pre-market highs and pre-market lows, there wasn't consistent highs and there wasn't consistent lows. But definitely you could tell the market wasn't really trending in a dominant direction. It wasn't really being very bullish and it wasn't being very bearish. So it was in a range, but the range isn't well defined. You just know that prices are moving sideways. I'm going to go into the trades right now, or actually the chart. So pre-market, there was a sell-off, kind of what I'm seeing in real time. So this is what it looks like in real time. There's a sell-off, pushes down, it looks like it consolidates, finds a bottom, and starts moving up. It moves up in what I think is this green channel. This green channel fit relatively well, but not the best. But I don't trust it too much. Prices then move on this one leg down, first entry long, and then you technically have a second entry long here, but it's not. It doesn't really seem like there's any kind of trade here. Prices then move up. You have a first entry short. You have a second entry short. Here you have a second entry short failure. But when you see this, you're not really thinking of going long or short because I was thinking, is there a trading range developing here with this high and maybe this low? You have a failed second entry short, pulls back, and then you also have a higher low, but this isn't a very convincing higher low. However, I want to point out when I was watching this, I wasn't convinced I was really in a trading range necessarily. It is trading sideways, and I saw that this is some kind of resistance here. But this resistance is being tested, and it looked like it's pushing out. So I saw a new high, first entry long, also saw a new low, first entry short, second entry short failure, and then there's a higher low. Then it formed this very small 6-tick candle, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, and then it forms an even smaller candle, and each time it's testing and pressing against this high or this resistance. I also saw this as a new high, saw first entry long pullback. When this candle formed and it opened here, it dropped down and immediately reversed. I quickly dropped in an order here at the same highs as here, so one tick above this guy. Because I was thinking so this is during the life of this candle. I got in very quickly, thinking there's enough for a 1-point scalp. Because I was noticing, even though it's not the cleanest second entry long, it has a few things going for it. Overall context looks like there's this break of this big green up channel. There's 2 legs down, and now it's making 1 leg up, 2 legs down, or just 1 leg down, and it looked like it's trying to push up again. So I took that with the consideration that this is a failed second entry short. It's a higher low. Every time it's pressing against this resistance, which looks like it's about to give. EMA is starting to act as support. So even though it's marked as a second entry long, that's one of the things going for it. But overall, context-wise, I thought there was like some bullish buyers getting ready to springboard up. So I was able to get in on this trade. Even though it's a second entry long, I consider it more like I guess, an overall context, I'm seeing more bullish momentum come in. So I was able to get the quick scalp, consolidates, hits this high. This is the pre-market high. Well, excuse me, it's not the pre-market high. Pre-market high is way up here, but there is some kind of respect being paid to roughly this resistance range. So I was thinking this could be the top of a range and this could be the bottom. It's kind of pressing and it's having trouble. Now it starts pushing down. So when it bounced off of here, I'm thinking, okay, there's some kind of support here as well. And it flashes up. But this is also when the JOLTS job opening reports came out. So you're just kind of staying out of this because it's very quick price action. From here to here is only 2 minutes, but you already have this many 2,000 tick candles. Prices then kind of come pulling back. So here I'm looking back and I'm a little confused. I can't quite tell if there's an over dominating channel because I couldn't quite get anything to fit nicely. Or is there a range? It doesn't look like there's a clean range, but I do know prices are moving sideways. Kind of chops around. You do have a new low here, first entry short. There's a second entry short here, but I didn't like, especially in real time. I'm not thinking of going short here. Then after the fact, then you see a second entry short, but then it's too late. So there's nothing to feel bad about missing a trade here because there really was no trade. Prices then continue moving. Okay, so I see this as a new low, the first entry short, pullback, second entry short created here, and it pushed and went past this. Now, I thought this is an almost trade because it's coming off the possible top of this localized trading range. And I like that it moved one tick above, got rejected, and moved straight down on a strong reversal with an EMA rejection. Now, the only way I think I would have been able to feel comfortable on this trade, because after the move ended and it closed, you definitely don't want to take a trade here because it already looks like it's bottoming out. You'd have to trust your read enough to take it on an engulfing. So you'd have to either take it as soon as it breaks below this, because you definitely don't want to take it below here, and then you would have been enough to get a 1, maybe 2 point scalp. So this is an almost trade because it didn't seem like there was any safe way to jump in on this reliably. Prices then continue moving down. So it bounces off of this bottom part. So I'm thinking, okay, could this be the bottom of the trading range of a ambiguous range? Prices move up. It's a first entry short. Technically, have a second entry short. I don't like this signal bar because previously this one was nice that it moved one tick up and then down. This one didn't even make that and it flushed down, but it flushed down pretty strongly. But it was coming into potential support, so I had to leave it alone. And then it starts reversing, chops again. So I saw maybe one leg up, pull back, and I'm looking for a measured move all the way up to here. It hits it, stalls, and it pushes back down. But there was no way that I could see to cleanly get in on this trade. You could argue this is a new low here, first entry short, and you count this as a second entry short, but this is an inside bar, not the best signal bar. And the only thing you only have going for it is it made a measured move, so not good enough. But I'm thinking maybe there'll be a higher low set up here. And unfortunately, you don't get that higher low. It just kind of continues down and it starts just a whole new price action trend. Starts moving back up, hits this top again, the measured move. Then it starts flushing down. This is a new high, first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here, but this isn't a good signal bar. It's doji plus a very neutral candle. It's a little noisy, flushes down, breaks out on the low side of what I think is this yellow down channel, creates a new low, the first entry short, and on the same candle makes a second entry short. I like these type of setups, except this one I also thought was an almost trade because it went first entry short, pullback, second entry short. It didn't touch the EMA. It does get a rejection off this yellow down channel, but I needed a touch of the EMA. So then it pushes up and then flushes down. I needed a lower high confirmation. Now you could say this is the lower high, and if you did count this as the lower high, because if you new low, first entry short, pull back on this candle, you create your second entry short. And then here you could say it is a lower high, but this lower high, the way it closed, there's just not enough room to comfortably scalp out before I hit the lows here, which has potential to be a resistance, or excuse me, a support. You don't know that it's going to flush through like that. So there's no clear indication. I didn't take the trade and I just kind of left it alone. Prices then move up, makes a new low, first entry short, comes all the way up here. This is where you actually have a second entry short. The second entry short, I thought it was like a so-so setup because the first entry short pull all the way up. There's a potential second entry short. You actually don't know if it's going to test the highs of this yellow up channel or if it's going to actually make another attempt at this yellow down channel. So it's a little ambiguous. It is above the EMA. This trading range doesn't exist yet, so I don't get to use that as a key entry point. Flushes down, looks like it would have worked. Pushes up and actually creates a lower high. This lower high, unfortunately, I called a almost setup because it confirms the second entry short. Unfortunately, it closed right above the EMA. Had this candle ticked below and closed below this, then I would have probably tried to jump in on this trade, but it fell a little short, so I had to wait it out. Looked like it would have worked though. Prices move down, breaks out of this green down channel, makes a new low. It starts reversing. Kind of noisy here. It's a new low, first entry short, second entry short. This is a bad signal bar for second entry short. Kind of chops sideways and continues back down. Again, it's kind of finds an area of support. Kind of creates a new high. It's a first entry long. We also have a localized new low, first entry short. I'm thinking there's potential second entry short potential right here. There's also a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Okay, so second entry long hasn't failed yet. Here, the second entry long fails, but I was thinking it was in this trading range at the time. So it was like a new localized new high because you also have a new high here, first entry long pullback, second entry long. This is kind of a localized new high. The count resets. First entry long, pullback, second entry long fails right here. You also have a localized new low, double bottom, count resets here. First entry short, pullback, second entry short. So am I thinking going long or am I thinking going short? Hard to say. It is a nice signal bar for a failure, but I'm running into potentially the top of the range. So I'm not really thinking long. Is it going to be short? Well, the short, it confirms, but it closed very high. So it's hard to want to try to short here and potentially write it down. I would need to see what happens in the next couple candles. Maybe if there's a lower high, then you might be thinking, okay, go short. Then it breaks through. It starts trending back up. Gets a little noisy. Moves up in what I think is this yellow up channel. First break the yellow up channel. It looks like it had an EMA push through and it came right back up. Technically, I have first entry long. You have a second entry long. Second entry long below the EMA. I don't really like that. I drew this orange down channel and it confirmed once, twice, potentially a third time. And by the time this candle forms and flushes through, the trade has already been made. So it's another almost trade. It's a third touch confirmation of this yellow down channel. It's after the break of this yellow up channel, you made one attempt up, second attempt up, then reversed really hard. So the only way I could see entering on this would have been on the engulfing. You'd have to trust it enough to take it as it was pushing below this candle. But then by the time it closes, it feels like it's much, too much of a move has been made. So it feels like, better wait for a a lower high in the next couple candles. Unfortunately, you don't really get that lower high and it kind of reverses and pushes back up. It gets noisy, it pushes again. And now it's starting to get a little bit choppy. You have a new high, first entry long, and then you technically have a second entry long here. It's a doji. I don't really like that. I did draw this purple up channel, but I don't know that I trust it yet because it just has these wick touches. I need a little bit more stronger confirmation. Drops around. Okay, it's kind of confirming. It's kind of showing that EMA is acting as support, but I'm just not a big fan of this. It's a little noisy. Starts trending up and it flashes through. So actually by this time I was already away from my desk. So I don't really know if there was any news that came out to result or cause this. But when I came back and I'm watching this, I'm trying to replay this as if I was looking at it in real time. I didn't really see any real trades except for this next one coming up potentially. So it's a new low. It's a first entry short, very tiny. Second entry short. Second entry short. So I thought this might have been an aggressive trade. So after this break of this yellow up channel, pushes down and makes a new high. So uptrend may have played out because it already tested a new high. This is a very tiny signal bar. It's only 3 ticks. And the follow-up trigger bar is also pretty tiny. It's only actually it's not that tiny. It's 8 ticks. But I was thinking it tested a new high. Maybe there's enough momentum to come back and touch or make an attempt to touch the EMA. So this might have been a possible trade. I definitely would not have gotten a trade ready here. I would have waited for this to close, and to reduce my risk, I would have put it one tick below this guy. And it's hard to say whether I would have gotten the fill or not. And prices move sideways, kind of chops, moves up again. I'm thinking there's this shallow up channel here, but this is just very tight price action right now. It's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but I didn't really see it that way. I just saw it was kind of one big clean leg down. There's no second entries that felt safe because there's a lot of first entries, but I also have a confirmed orange down channel, but I needed to see a good two-legged set, two second leg entry, excuse me. I need to see a second entry clean setup. Pushes down, kind of chops around, hits this localized new low. Now it starts reversing. You have first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short, but here I'm not thinking of going short. This is a break of this yellow up channel, but you could have easily have made this fit this way as well. This also seems pretty valid. So here, if technically, if you drew it this way, it hasn't broke out of this yellow up channel yet, then it finally breaks, pushes back up. It's going to test the highs. It does, and makes it, and then comes right back down. No clean setup I can see. Kind of moves around sideways. Gets a little noisy. Nothing I particularly like. Pushes down, breaks, is a fail breakout, but then kind of pushes up and through. There's this huge candle here. I don't really know what caused it, but there's only really a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but here you would not have been knowing to take a short or get a short ready. Then, kind of creates a third entry short, and you would just abandon this setup completely at that point, or at least not try to make heads or tails of trying to get a quick setup. Drew this at one time. Well, actually, this is all after the fact, because I stopped trading at 12, 11, and I came back when the market was already closed. So I try to replay this in real time, moving it bar by bar like I'm doing now. Pushes through. You do have a second entry long here, but this isn't a good signal bar. Maybe if you have a new high, first entry long, second entry long, you look for a higher low, but it already moves into the close because this is the last 10 minutes. So that's kind of how I saw the charts today. It only took one trade, which is way over here. There's a few more almost setups than actual setups. And it was kind of a choppy, a little bit harder for me to read day because it didn't really make consistent highs or consistent lows for me to trust if I was at the lows of a range or high at the range. Because if you trusted it here, well then, I mean, you're not sure if this is the low because it broke through here. It looks like it kind of has some support, but then, right here, made one touch, two touch, three touches, a triple test. Later it breaks down here, so it's a little ambiguous. It wasn't the easiest trading day for me to read, but just glad I got my one trade, and it should be good. Anyways, hopefully this was helpful.